Hello everyone, welcome to Methods 2 Week 9. Now that we are fairly proficient with using Rhino to design things and model 3D elements, we will be moving into using different softwares. For instance, primarily the softwares that come with the Creative Cloud, Adobe Creative Cloud. For instance, if I pull up Creative Cloud, which is active on all the computers in the lab, you'll see that we have various different softwares that we're able to use. For now, and in this next assignment, we'll be focusing on InDesign, but throughout the semester we'll also be using Illustrator as well as Photoshop. So if everyone can open their InDesign, you should come up with a start menu or start of the software that looks like this. We'll just want to click a new file, and we want to change our units over here to inches. We can also name it something else. I'm just going to name it test right now. We want to make sure that our orientation is landscape because all of our assignments are in landscape. Just make sure that we're using our standard 11 by 17 tabloid size. And we can leave all this other stuff as it is right now. We'll get into how to add pages and what facing pages mean in a little bit later. So let's just create this new document. And as we can see, we now have an 11 by 17 sheet shown in our InDesign file. And we're able to, if we zoom out using Alt, we can see the workspace that is around this sheet space. So to begin, what we're going to do is change our workspace settings. So we go to the top right where it says Essentials, and we change that to Essentials Classic. It gives us a little bit more of a cleaner layout that's easier for us to understand. We don't need the CC libraries right now. I'm just going to drag that down here so we have a little more space. So one thing about InDesign is it is mainly used as a layout software in conjunction to design. So when we think about magazines or final boards or stuff like that, a lot of those are designed in software similar to this or even InDesign itself. It allows us to import images as well as text in order to create very seamless presentations and boards. However, there is one thing about InDesign that is different than a software like PowerPoint, which probably is the one that everyone's more familiar with, is that in InDesign, it is always referencing the files or images that you import into the document, whereas PowerPoint, when you place an image in there, it's actually embedded into the PowerPoint itself. So it will not lose its quality or anything based on that image that you placed into PowerPoint. That being said, your PowerPoint files get increasingly exponentially larger every time you add an image or a file, whereas the InDesign document will always be referencing those files so they don't gain that much volume, and they're a lot less they take up a lot less memory and workspace on your computer. So how do we import an image or a file? We do it a couple ways. The first way I'm going to show y'all is to draw this rectangle frame. So if we zoom in to over here, the rectangle frame, or we just do F for the hotkey. And we can also hover over it, right click it, and we can draw different shapes. I'm just going to draw the circle here or oval here as well. We can also do polygons. We can also change the shape of the polygon if you so wanted to. But for now, let's just focus on the rectangle and the ellipse. So what we can do now is import an image. If we go to File, Place, and I'll go to my file for this. And I'll just import this image here. So we see that we placed this leaf photo into the frame. However, the actual image for the leaf is a lot larger than the frame that we had drawn originally, and that's due to the fitting of the frame, or the image aspect of the original image. So what we can do is fit the frame, or fit the image to the frame, or vice versa, fit the frame to the image. So what I'm going to do first is just fit the frame to the content. And we can see that it got a lot larger. Inversely, we could fit the content to the frame. And now the image is a lot smaller, and it fills the frame. Let's say that we have an image like this, or a frame like this, that's not necessarily the same size or the same orientation as our image. And if we were to fit the content to the frame, now it has just stretched the image. Maybe that's not what we really want. So I'm going to fit the content proportionally. Now if I were to do this again, fit the content proportionally, it has centered the content and scaled it to where it does not lose its original aspect ratio, but it still is completely within the frame. And again, we can do it, fill the frame proportionally. Now it has filled to the extent of the frame, but in some instances it's still going past the frame. That's okay. So we're going to leave it at that. Another thing that we can do about frames is change the stroke and the fill, which is just a simple way to say the solid of the frame and the outline of the frame. So if we were to just change the solid, the fill, let's just make that blue. We could also change the outline. Just make that black for now. We could also come over here to stroke. We can change the thickness of that outline. Maybe we want it to be like super thick. We can also copy this. Using the eyedropper tool. So we have the eyedropper selected. That's how we can see it switched orientations, right? Right now it's facing the bottom left. If we fill the eyedropper of something, it switches to the bottom right, and we can see it has a little halfway black fill. Now if we drop it onto this, we can see that it now has the black outline And if I double click on the frame and we see now this orange outline, this orange bounding box, that is the image. And we can easily, scale this how we want. But we can also see that the fill region is also blue. So again, we can stretch this however we want. Let's just have it like this for now. Another thing that we can do is drag an image. So let's go back to our folder that we have here. And I want to drag an image into our InDesign document. So I drug this image and we can see that it is in my selection tool. And I can just drop this into a frame. So let's just drop that here. Now we can see it's dropped in there pretty nicely. We can go ahead and edit the image or how it fits. Let's just fill the frame proportionally. Now we can see everything is filled. There's no open space. But also the image is the same proportions that it was to begin with. We can also use Control and Shift to scale the image proportionally. If we weren't holding Scale and Shift, we can move this in any direction, right? But if we do Scale and Shift, it scales not only the frame, but also the image, as well as the outline as well, right? Everything scales. That's something you need to be aware of. But let's say we still want to keep that same outline, so I'm just going to use the eyedropper again and just drop it on there. Oops. There we go. That way they have the same border, everything is the same. Now we can talk about the actual view mechanics of looking at your workspace. I talked about it a little bit. If you hold Alt, you can zoom in and out. We can see the entirety of the workspace. However, if you just go to View, and we can go to Fit Page in Window, that zooms into that page. We can also go up to View as well and just zoom in and zoom out through here. We can see that it's Control plus and minus. So just zoomed out a little bit. Now one thing that we can do is go to our view and go to extras. And we can go to hide frame edges. So what that did, if I squeeze this down, if I go back to my extras, show frame edges. When we have the frame edges shown, we're able to see the extent of the boundary of the frame, as well as these cross sections for empty frames. So if we were to go to our extras and hide those frame edges, now they disappear. They're still there, they're just hidden graphically. We can also go to View, Grids and Guides. And similar to Rhino, there is an underlying document grid in InDesign. This is very useful for laying things out to be aligned with each other. So we can easily start aligning this to the grid. We can go to extras again, or grids and guides. And we can do snapped document grid. Right now, before it wasn't snapping properly, but now it will. We can also go to create guides. So for guides, what that means is similar to the grid, these are guidelines that you can use to more easily snap your frames or your images to those guides. Then the last thing for view properties is if we go to view and we go to screen mode, this is the normal working view. However, we can also go to preview, and this is what your sheet would look like if you were to print it right now. It won't show those grid lines or those guidelines, it will just show the images that you have placed. It won't even show this frame that's over here, correct? Because there's nothing in it. We can also talk about the display performance. Right now, we're doing typical display, which is perfectly fine in this setting. Maybe in some instances, you want to see the more high quality resolution, the actual resolution of those images. Of course, it will take more processing power, but it gives you a more realistic view of what it will be printed as. We can also go to a fast display. This is more if you're really trying to just see the overall layout and composition without paying attention to the content that you're trying to show, which is useful in some instances. It's also the level of performance that will be the least impactful on your processor, so it'll be the easiest to run. Everything has its place, but that's how you can change the display performance. So I'll just go back to my typical, because it's good enough for now. So with that being said, let's get into the actual project. I'm just going to delete all these images real quick. And for your assignment, you're to create a document that is 3 pages long for all 3 of your options. So let's see how we can first import multiple images into this document. I'm just going to go to my 3 images, my axon, elevation, and interior perspective. And I'm just going to highlight all 3 of those and just drag them in here. This is probably the easiest, simplest way for us to do this. And we can just drag them like this. Again, similar to what we did in the beginning, we can also create frames to drop these all into. We can start messing with the image itself. Maybe I don't need all that extra white space on my elevation. I just really want to focus on the pattern of the elevation itself. Similar to this axon, right? I don't need all this extra white space around it. It's not necessary for what I'm trying to show. But maybe I really want to focus on this interior perspective. So I want to make this the largest thing on my board. Maybe this more like that. I can have my elevation be down here. Maybe that means this gets a little bit smaller. My axon can just fit in here. Again, lining up some things. Maybe that's fine for now. And we can also import text or place text using the type tool. And we can just create our option one rule set or rule set one. And then we can describe our 5 rules. And we can also create another text box that maybe is more like a title block. So name, assignment number, date, and then section. Class / section, I guess. So we have our text. We can select it and change it up here. Just say Arial. Can change the size of the font. We can make it all lowercase or all capitalized. Can change the justification. We can copy this, right, into these. Oops. So now we have our rule sets. Oops, missed one. There we go. The title block, you can see what it looks like with our preview display mode. Looks fine. It's very simple. I'm just trying to throw everything on here quickly so everyone understands the concept of creating a layout. We can go to our pages on the right side, and rather than just creating a new layer, a new page that now we have to copy everything, because we want all 3 of these options to be the same layout and be able to directly compare each option. What we should do is duplicate the spread. We can duplicate it again. And now we can see that we have these facing pages, which is not ideal for this type of assignment. This is more appropriate for if you're creating like some kind of book or some kind of presentation that is meant to be read across 2 pages. So what we can do is go to our file, document setup, and we can turn off facing pages here. We click OK. Now we see that all of our pages are individual sheets that are all just directly on top of each other or sequentially shown. Then the only thing that we really have to change on these here is update 2, update that to 3, import the new option images. Right. Oh, I deleted. the actual images. I go back to view, grids and guides, no, extras, show frame edges. You can see our frames here. One nice thing about InDesign is as long as the images that we're importing are the same ratio and same perspectives, then whenever we drag and drop, for instance, our axon lives here, our elevation lives here, and our interior perspective lives here. It maintains those qualities that we've already established. So as long as everything is taken from the same angles, then it should be very easy for you to drag and drop and maintain a consistent look through all of your options. Another thing that we could do is if you do start with a blank sheet, you can highlight everything. Control C, which is copy to clipboard. And we can go down here to our blank slate. We can go to File, Edit, Paste in Place. We'll just do the same thing as duplicate the spread, just paste all of those elements in the same spot that they were copied from in that new sheet. That about covers it for the assignment and what we're expecting to be shown on these pages. Again, it does not need to be this layout. It can be any kind of layout that you prefer. Any sizes that you want, right? We can have our elevation up here, axon here, maybe your interior perspective is more like that. Maybe you have your title block down here. Maybe it's all separated into one line, right? This is your opportunity to be creative and set some kind of precedent for this cumulative InDesign document, because we're going to be using or adding on to these pages similar to what we're doing with these three options. Assignment 4, part 2, will keep adding pages onto this. So at the end of this assignment 4, we'll be able to review the entire progress of this assignment. That being said, we need to learn how to save this document. So earlier on, I said that the images are not embedded into this InDesign file, but they're actually referencing those folders that we imported or placed those images from. So if we just save a regular InDesign file and we open it again, it will not have those, and we open it on a different computer, or we don't have our actual images on the computer that we started with, especially if we're not working on the OneDrive, then those images will be, the links to those images will be missing, so they will never retain their existing quality. In some instances, they will break completely and you'll just have an empty frame again. So in order to avoid that, what we can do, instead of just saving the InDesign file, we can package the entire document. So what package does is saves a copy and creates new links for everything in this document. So for instance, I use 2 fonts, the 12 links, which are those images, as well as even the colors that I used, will be all written into the memory or the default presets for this package InDesign document. Again, we can go through these and see everything that's being saved. And if we just package, so it's packaging the document. So it's saving all of those links and all those images, as well as it's creating a PDF document, and that is an original InDesign document. So it will all be housed in one nice little area. Taking a little while. Give it a little bit of time. Okay. Now if we go and look at that document that was saved, I'll get to my downloads, that's where I saved it. We see that test InDesign document, which is just what we're working in now, as well as the test folder. And in this folder, we have the InDesign markup, which is just like an archived version. The InDesign document, which is the document that we're working in. It saves a PDF, which I'll open here, as we can see. All of our images. It's also saved the fonts that were used, as well as the links. So even if we work on a new computer that does not originally or default have these fonts, as long as we're working in this InDesign document in the test folder, which I just opened, everything will be linked, everything will be functioning properly. So that's it for this tutorial. Hope everyone is having a great spring break, and hopefully on Tuesday we're able to review everyone's designs or any questions you may have encountered while making your design for this Inhabitable facade. As well as any InDesign questions you may have. Okay, see y'all.